Hello there, my name is Bruce Rain from Brankers Creations, and welcome to the first Tinker Different live stream of the year. And it might even be the last, who knows, we'll see. But of the year, that is, never the last live stream.
That's it, we fold.
I am, excuse me, joined by Kai and by Justin. Hello, fellas.
Hello.
Hello.
We will be having a few more people join in here as well in the hopefully not too distant future. We'll just see how we go. But when we put out the word for the live stream, we said, "Come on, everybody!" And this is who we've got so far.
There are people held up by parenting events.
Yes, that's right. No, this is crazy people. Yes, we realise that people are busy, and it is. I mean, where it is here at the moment, it's Sunday morning. For a lot of places, it's Saturday night. I'm thinking it's very, very late Saturday night where you are, Kai. Is that correct?
It's 11.
Okay, that's not too bad.
It's 11. It's not too bad. Yeah. I mean, the clocks go forward an hour next week. So
okay. If the roles were reversed and it was 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, for me, there would be a lot of slurring coming from here. So,
how much wine would be involved?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Now, what did I want to mention? To anyone here who is watching, please jump out, tell your friends, join. We don't live stream very often, so special opportunity. Make sure you don't miss it. So anyhow, the purpose of today's live stream is we are going to first of all go through some of the really cool things on the Tinker Different forum. Obviously, the Tinker Different forum is a place for a bunch of sort of like-minded geeks to jump on and share stuff, ask questions, share information, all talk about the same sorts of stuff. And there has been some really cool things happening, and so we've got a few. We've got a little selection of some of the really cool stuff that's been posted on the forum. And then after that, we will then have a bit of a Q&A. So the purpose of that is if anyone who is in the chat wants to ask us a question, whether it be one of us individually or whether it be the Tinker Different board as a whole. What I would ask is if you do come up with a question, just prefix it in the chat with question, question colon, and then put your question so that we can then go back at the end when it's question time and go through the chat and find those questions. We did give people the opportunity to post questions on the forum itself. We didn't get any, and that may be because people don't have any questions, but and which is fine. We'll just make stuff up. But if you do have any questions, please drop them into the chat. So now what did I want to do? So do we want to just launch into it, or do you guys want to have a quick chat about something first?
I mean, what I would like to say is for anybody that is unaware, the current board has essentially extended its term. So anybody that is unaware of the thread that is actually on the Tinker Different forum, basically 1 year was just not enough for us to get stuff done. And obviously with the the approval of the community as a whole, we are now doing a longer term to allow us to actually kind of like build traction on on certain stuff. Things like towards the tail end of 2023, our new merch store, which has gone live and has already shipped products to people. One of which is a hoodie, which is currently being worn by my wife in bed while she watches Hoarders on YouTube. However, that aside, she has stated that it is the most comfortable hoodie that she has ever worn. And having felt the fabric, it's pretty high quality. It's a nice piece of kit. We've got we've got the merch store, and that's all sorted out. The calendars, that is now a thing as well. So obviously, we're a third of the way through the year, so obviously you're only going to get 75% of a calendar at this point, but they are still available. And
it's all about the pictures anyway.
Oh yeah, no, there's all sorts of pictures. We've got mouse mats. We've got mugs, we've got socks, everything. Well, not everything. Again, if there's something missing from the store as well, you can always give us feedback and say, hey, I think this would be a really good idea. And then we can look into it and then we can add as a design for it. So, yeah, those are the two major things that I think, I think we could bring up. But other than that,
Mac Classic or SE Reloaded boards on that online shop?
The boards themselves are not. However, obviously the ongoing deal that I have with Mac Effects for the SE Reloaded and the Classic, they're out of stock currently. However, that was mostly because Market Mac Effects had a crash of some kind and lost all the gerbers. So I've sent him the gerbers again, and there is a new revision of the SE Reloaded. It's very, very minor. It just adds an additional address line kind of breakout, as I believe some people were wanting to try having a go with the Classic ROM in the SE, because as we all know, the Classic is an SE that's been shrunk in a hot wash. And literally the only difference is the fact that they punch out an extra address line for the ROM. So it might be possible to take.
Would that then mean that you can boot into the ROM as you can with the Classic?
Yep, exactly that, because they use the BDU. And in fact, I don't think there's any differences in the ROM that would stop it from working at all, because literally every other major hardware component and ASIC is identical.
Right. Well, that's an interesting one. So what I take away from that conversation is I have been mispronouncing Gerbers all this time.
Gerbers, yes.
Oh, well. I'm going to keep saying Gerbers and I'm going to keep saying GIF. I don't care what anyone says.
It's Jeff, damn it. No.
Well, I mean, I know that the creator of the GIF file has actually, he's not with us anymore, unfortunately, but I don't think so anyway. I think he passed away. But he did actually say that it is pronounced GIF. But of course, we all know he's wrong. So,
well, I mean, that's why he died. The wrong pronunciation. Somebody went around his house with a hammer, just like ended it. No, sorry, we're not accepting that. Also, let's go around the horn and just say hello to everybody that has come in. So,
yes.
So hello to One Bit Fever Dreams, Garth Beagle, Dave's Vintage Apple Tech, Francois. Let's see, we've got Jeremy's Vintage Hillbilly Shack. We've got Sam Johnson. We've got 2112 Street. We've got Borgmac, Frederick Raymer, and Jack68K. So, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon. Depends on where you are, really. But
it's 2112 Street, is it? I always thought it was 2112 Street.
No, he actually said 1101. 2112 Street.
Yeah, there you go. And what else? Oh, there was. Oh yes. I did actually want to mention something that was related to what you talked about before. Yes, the extended board period. I just wanted to let people know that we aren't basically doing this because we want to maintain power for an extended period of time. Everyone on the board is a busy person. They are usually people that are usually have a full-time job and then probably a side hustle as well. And then sometimes they're expected to actually spend time with family too. And what we basically found is we were having trouble getting together frequently enough that 1 year term was a useful amount of time. So we did extend it basically just because we felt that was an opportunity for us to be able to do more good. Because of how busy we all are. So anyhow, that's all I wanted to mention. Okay, it is a 1976 Rush album. My cousin is a huge Rush fan, so I should have probably known that. Okay, so all right, Justin, did you have anything you wanted to add before we sort of launch into the stuff?
Hello.
There we go, everybody. Justin's contribution to this live stream. Thank you very much, Justin. We'll see you later.
Oh, dear. Alrighty, so I have got this little screen here prepared, and we are going to go in and have a little look at some of these projects that are currently on... Whoopsie, where's my mouse gone? Too many screens. Oh, there we are. Okay, got it. Look at some of these wonderful projects that we have on Tinker Different. Now, here's this one. Mac Twister, a MacCon Etherport Shiva Dana Twisted Pair Breakout Board. You heard it here first, folks.
Wow,
there
that's
it is.
a mouthful.
So what can you tell us about this one, Kai? I think you dug this one up.
Yeah.
So,
So quite often you'll see like some sort of Ethernet card for an SE or an SE30 that's been posted up for sale on eBay, and half the time they're kind of you got the card, but you don't actually have the ports on it at all. But for the most part, most of them are just simply an IDC header and a very kind of dumb breakout board. And this is basically a universal breakout board to use with a card that either is missing or faulty.
and it works with all of those different network cards.
Yep, exactly.
That's extraordinary. That is absolutely fantastic. So that's just like one of the coolest things I've seen.
It is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. That's why I put it in the list.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, fantastic. So for anyone who has got so we're talking SE30, aren't we here? So
SE
I
and
guess
SE30,
sorry?
SE and SE30. Yeah.
And if it's SE30, that means probably 2SI as well.
Possibly. Most of the ones for the SE, as far as I'm aware, they fitted directly onto the riser as like a new bus card rather than as a PDS card, which is what most of the SE and SE30 ones were.
Yeah. Well, because I have actually got a couple of Ethernet cards that you can basically just take straight out of the SE30 and drop into a 2SI. They're designed to fit the same and everything. They go onto the little back section of the 2SI and fit exactly the same. So so I'm guessing maybe not all, certainly some of them it would probably work for the SI as well. But I imagine that would be something we would have to check with Moldy. So anyhow, that's a fantastic one. We will be putting links to all of these into the description. I should have put it beforehand, but I didn't after the live stream. So if anyone wants to go back and check some of these out, they can. And
we'll also post them in the forum as well under the announcement thread.
Excuse me, sorry, just sneezed there. Okay, so that is that one, and that is an absolutely awesome thing there. Then we have
that is great. Now we have fewer eBay regrets out there.
Yeah,
as in the regrets of finding that awesome network card and not being able to find the board. Hey, you can make one now. Great. That's 2 thumbs up.
I am just going to quickly remove this and say hello to Eric. Welcome to the live stream,
Eric.
So, anything interesting happening in your world at the moment?
Oh, no, not too much. Just came back from a family event, so I apologize for my tardiness. No, just excited to talk about what's been going on and Ticker Different. And
Excellent. Well, we have just started looking at some of the cool projects on there, and we were just talking about this, whatever that thing was called, the Twister, which enables you to connect up. If you have ended up getting a network card in an SE or an SE30 and it didn't have the little ports at the back, it's a universal option for that, which is fantastic. But it does also remind me of a quick little story I'm going to tell about I think it was an SE30, possibly an SE, one that came up on eBay or something like that. And on the back, it had very clearly, you could see on the back, a display card port. And so, of course, people started going a little bit berserk about this one. It's going to have a graphics card in it. Now, anyhow, I know the person who ended up buying it, and they actually brought it to me for a recap. And I opened it up, and nothing inside. So someone needs to do the reverse now. So they now need to make it so that there's a universal adapter. So if you get stuck with the ports but no card inside,
we know a man in Germany that can do just these kind of things.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I actually have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I have my own SE story about seeing one locally on Craigslist, and they had a port on the back, and I was, asking $100 for it or something like that. And so I go to meet him, and I look at it, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to turn on or anything. I'll give you $50 for it. And he said, I'm just going to melt it down for scrap gold. And he didn't know what he's talking about, but he thought he could get hundreds of dollars for it. And finally, I convinced him to give it to me for $50. And it was battery bombed, but there was a color card in it. So
what sort of color card?
It's the unaccelerated color card 20 something. I can't remember the exact model, but yeah, I mean it works in its color and it can drive a pretty big monitor. I put my like 1080 or HD monitor on it and it can drive that.
Wow.
So
Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you do sometimes get that. I mean, I know I bought a lot of computers from someone and they were in terrible condition. This is a long time ago. They were in pretty bad condition. They'd been kept in a shed or something like that. And there was a Mac 2 there, and I could tell from looking at the Mac 2 that it had no power supply in it. So I'm like, But of course, I got the Mac 2, opened it up, and it had a Radius Rocket 040 in it. And the value of that card was worth more than what I paid for the entire lot of computers. So every now and again, you do find that little bit of magic inside. I always look forward to that. Okay, so let's now have a look at this one, and this is definitely moving into the realms of Kai's sort of range of experience here.
Yes. So for anybody that's ever had to deal with one of these, this is a Mac 2 Ci. Funnily enough, it's actually intact. That's not missing any chips, and there's battery bond damage, if you can kind of see in that corner. But yeah, the RTC is gone, and But this is the perfect thing for using for a donor board because otherwise it's in pretty good condition. So. There we go. As if by magic, we have a 2CI Reloaded produced from my nose, ladies and gentlemen. There we go.
Wow.
That is the 2CI Reloaded in purple. This is the pre-production mass run, which is Max is going to do. This one, I believe. So there's I think there's like a single hole drilled out there that was not connected to where it's supposed to be. But yeah, this is one of those boards from that stack. So I've got one. One is going to be going off to Tech Night as well. And yeah, these are now going to be available. I believe all of the board files are actually up on Max's GitHub either now or they will be shortly.
Well, I have definitely got a candidate for that. I've got a 2CI battery bomb, so I think I'll be grabbing one of those for sure. Now, obviously, things like, well, what if you were? Could you theoretically build one from scratch? I mean, are all of these components still available?
No. It is one of those. Unlike the SE, which is very nearly able to be built off the shelf, on here you have bus transceivers no longer made. You have the RBV, the RAM-based video, not available. The MDU, not available. So it's designed for people who have a 2CI that's been battery bombed in that area where, let's say, the ROMs have been destroyed or the RTC's been destroyed, or maybe the startup circuitry where all the caps go, typically. Most of the time when these go pop, most of the customs are fine. The one exception I've had is where the new chip 30, one leg got eaten off it, and that's it. Yeah, that whole chip's dead and gone. I'm sure you could find some way around that. But yeah, it's designed for people with bad boards who want to do a transplant. It's not, unfortunately, one of those boards where you can kind of like assemble it out of thin air. So
one of the truly frustrating things about the 2CI is the fact that the battery resides, number one, underneath the floppy and hard drive assembly, which basically means that we lost Kai. He'll be back. Don't you worry. So the battery is right in the corner there that can't be seen if you just open the lid off. You actually got to disassemble it to see it, and that is one of the really disappointing things about the design, because I suspect that if that battery had been somewhere else on the board so that you could actually see it when you open the lid, more people would have ended up removing them. Let me just get him back. He is back here now. You sneezed too hard, I think, Kai.
I sneezed too hard. No, what it was while we're on the 2CI Reloaded, I did also want to point out there's one that I didn't put in the list.
FX.
That's the 2FX Reloaded.
That's the big board. That one.
I mean, I have to move it back just to fit it in shot. But yeah, that's the 2FX Reloaded.
That's the actual one. Fantastic.
This is the one that's going to be coming to you, Bruce.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. All right.
So,
So,
I mean, as a size comparison between the two.
yes.
So there we go. That's 2CI versus the 2FX.
Yep. Yes, the 2X, 2FX, all the same size board and all gigantic and frustrating people with small ultrasonic cleaners everywhere.
Oh no! But wait, there's more. Have you ever thought about a Quadra 950 reloaded?
Oh yes. I have thought about it a lot.
Bigger.
Yes. So who's doing it?
My lips will remain sealed for the moment until more is released. But
Okay.
all I will say is that there's plans.
Excellent. Oh, that's good to hear. And the 950 is another one of these ones which is going for ridiculous money these days on eBay. And I think it's mainly because it was such an expensive machine at the time. They were really only owned by absolute sort of professionals, so there probably just aren't as many of them out there. And there's such a hulking thing to store. I've got one down there, and it is it's not, it doesn't get used much because I can't get to it. But just there are a couple of things I want to say about this 2CI. I was sort of mentioning before with that position of the battery, when it does explode, it takes out a lot of those little address lines and stuff coming out of the ROM chips, which is one of the really frustrating things about it. Some of the battery bomb computers, they're in slightly less important areas, but you have a battery bomb 2CI, chances are it's not going to work. Now, can you tell me, was this one that was simply a sand it down and trace it out jobby, or was this one where it was kind of re-engineered?
So this is one that Max has actually redone from the schematics. They have surfaced on the internet from where we do not know.
No, they just appear.
The fact is, they're out there, and as a result, they've been used as the basis for building these boards. There is also, on the topic of released schematics, lately there have been a lot coming out of various different sources. So now we also have the Quadra 700 schematics as well, the complete schematics for that.
Yes, they find their way to me, most of them as well too. So I thank you to all those people that have been making these schematics magically appear. whoever the schematic fairy is, I thank the schematic fairy. So yeah. Alrighty. So now the other thing of course, was mentioned in the chat before from Jeremy's Vintage Hillbilly Shack is the 2SI Reloaded coming soon, and I owe you some stuff for that.
Yes. Also, there was a question a little bit further up, which was Jack68K sending me some 2SI boards. I've not yet received a package. However, once that does arrive, things can kind of move on in earnest. One of the things that is currently being done, along with Colin from This Does Not Compute, is the 2SI power supply, both the main board and the little Sony daughter board, which kind of sits up inside it. Now, the main board is done, dusted, finished, completo. The Sony board is mostly done, just needs the component values putting into it. And I think that's it then.
This is an exact replica, or someone tried to make it better?
It's an exact replica of the 2SI. So if you've got if you've got a power supply that is the main power supply is good, but that little daughter board is just wrecked beyond. You can just get the little daughter board and fit that in there, or
because that's only one layer, that board, isn't it?
They are just single layer boards, so they are dead easy. I think the main power supply board took me 4 hours. And most of that was kind of like relearning how to use Sprint again. But once you get into it, it's seriously, Sprint is one of those things that is just absolutely magical because you can go into it completely blind, and then 4 hours later you're like, haha, of course this makes sense. I know what I'm doing.
Dear, yeah. So I have a 2SI board which I am going to also donate to this project, whether it be a matter of just sending you high-res images or whether I can contribute in some way or another. And as usual, I am always available to test out the sort of sort of beta release boards, stuff like that. If you
Yes,
need,
and it's not just me on this one. Max and myself are combining efforts on this one.
that's like some sort of superpower.
No,
Two
a
of you together.
superpower it would be if we had Bowl on board as well. In which case,
Yes.
I mean, in that case, I'd just be like, "Yay, go guys!" I'm just sitting in the corner with a flag.
My little bowl story, it's just a very quick one. I'll mention. I got from him one of the grayscale boards for the SE30, and I was basically planning to do a video, and I was going to do a video to pretty much just promote these boards. Sean from Action Retro ended up doing a video on it, and I sort of didn't really feel there was a need to do another one. But I was going to do a video to say, hey, look at these fantastic things. You know, they're a little bit pricey, but you get grayscale on an SE30. It's a wonderful novelty. Yay, wonderful. And then someone contacted me and said, oh, I really want one of these. So I gave him Bowl's details, contacted Bowl, and Bowl said, there aren't any more. Can't get the parts for them anymore. That's it. What he made, what we made, is it. So they've now become as rare as the original ones. Which is a shame. I mean, I really was hoping that these would be something that would be available to everyone, you know, that they could go and buy these and put them in their SE30s. But unfortunately, that was not the case. But anyhow, I'm glad I got one. Okay, so let's jump back here and have a look at the next one. I mean, look, how awesome is it that all these boards are getting made? I mean, it is just absolutely fantastic that the people are putting in the effort and doing this work. And you know, making these reproductions, as I continually
Bruce,
say.
You seem unimpressed with your.
Yes, I know. I think it keeps thinking my microphone is a thumbs down.
Microphone disapproves.
So yeah, some software somewhere on my computer is doing this. So my apologies to everyone. I'm not quite sure where to switch it off. Okay, yeah. So as I always say, it's a really good time to be alive when it comes to vintage computer collecting. So
actually, I'm convinced Bruce just doesn't want to turn it off.
Well, I've figured out how I can switch it on twice, but I haven't figured out how to switch it off twice. I can have it on once or twice, but I can't. So we can do this, and I can actually give you two thumbs at the same time if you want. Let's not do that. Okay, now this is one I can actually jump in and
doesn't give a shit. This guy.
Now this is something that I can definitely chat about. And basically, what we have here is a product called a Kodak Reels 8mm film digitizer. So for anyone out there who is familiar with 8mm film, you probably have to be my age or slightly younger. I mean, but the young folks would probably have no idea about this. And basically what you used to do is you would buy these films. The cost of the film usually included the processing as well. The cost of processing, it certainly did out here anyway. And you would buy these little films, Super 8 films, and you'd pop them inside to your camera. You'd have 3 minutes of footage you could film. And then at the end of it, you would take that film out, you'd stick it in a little bag, you'd post it away, and then it would come back processed. You'd have this little processed reel of film. There were sound ones available, but the one that our family had no sound. We started off with the original 8mm and then went to the Super 8mm. Super 8mm had slightly smaller sprockets and slightly larger image, so you used to get a slightly better image. They ran it, I think it was about 18 frames a second, if my memory serves correctly. And these predated video cameras, of course. So I have actually got some Super 8 or regular 8 and Super 8 film that goes right back to the 60s, I think, is around about where the first one I was in it. And I get to see, you know, this film footage of like great grandparents and stuff like that. They're all engineers in my family, so there are lots of films of dams. Whenever they used to go somewhere, they would go and find out where the local dam was and film it. So we've got lots of footage of dams because, as I say, engineers in the family. And anyhow, you have these films. You want to digitize them, you know, to preserve them. And there are kind of two options. Well, there are three options. You can basically project onto the wall and you can film that, but the results aren't particularly good. The other option you've got is you can sort of modify the projectors to actually project the image directly into the CCD of a camera. Steve from Mac 84 has actually done this. It's amazing stuff. So he modified a digital camera so that it actually did project that image straight onto the CCD of the camera and was able to record the video footage that way. And he got some excellent results from that. But another option is to go with one of these machines. There's this Kodak Reels. The one that I have is a product called Wolverine. And basically you put the film on and it takes a scan or sort of an image of every frame one at a time. So it just goes through going frame, 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 frame. It's quite, I mean, it's slow if you're wanting to actually watch it, but it's quite quick when you consider that it is individually scanning every single frame. And then it saves it down into an MP4 file, and then you can take that out and away you go. And they have some controls on them. You can usually sharpening or, you know, sort of boosting the color and stuff like that, which I don't particularly like doing. I'd rather do that in post-production. But, you know, these things are out there. Now, in the instance of the product I have, there's a product called a Wolverine and a Wolverine Pro. And there are two differences between them. One is that the Wolverine Pro will take much larger reels. Now, of course, that's something, if you're handy with a 3D printer, you can kind of get around that by making your own holders. And a lot of people have done that. But the other big difference between the Wolverine and the Wolverine Pro is the Wolverine is a 720p output. The Wolverine Pro is 1080p output. However, and this is where this wonderful discovery came in. Now, this, you know, Steve did a lot of the hard work digging all this stuff up. He didn't actually create this stuff, but he did a lot of stuff digging it up and doing different experiments as Steve does. You know, he's very thorough with this sort of stuff, and found out that the guts inside these things are all the same. Even the Kodak one and the Wolverine Pro, they're all the same inside. And it is basically just the firmware that decides what resolution, what bit rate, all of that sort of information. So someone found out where all that information was stored, made some software that enables you to dump the original ROM, the original firmware, open it up, make a little modification to the resolution, and then load it back into the camera, into the projector or scanner or whatever it is, and, you know, then, you know, do stuff at high res, and even beyond 1080p. You can actually go even higher than the original spec, because the camera itself inside that is actually higher resolution than 1080p. So I did it to my one. Steve did it to his. Basically went in and modified these so that they had a much higher bit rate, which means we're getting better quality out of them. Bigger file sizes, sure, but who cares about that? And, you know, take them to the maximum resolution to then get way more out of these scanners. So that's the short version of the story. So here's, you know, so Steve went to some incredible lengths here of actually extracting this ROM using a reader. Thankfully for my one, the ROMs were actually available online. Someone had already gone through all of this trouble. And then, yeah, so here we have all of these different bit rates and frames per second you can choose from. You can, you know, sort of, and some of them, when you actually choose those settings, it just stops working. It goes beyond its capability. And so it was just a matter of I went through and tested hundreds of different, well, not hundreds, but dozens of different combinations of resolutions and bit rates until I found one that it would support and that, you know, gave the best quality. So anyhow, if anyone has one of these, and I appreciate it's a relatively niche group of people that have one of these, but if you do have one of these, check this one out because it's amazing, you know. And there's sort of a video that Steve did on where he's gone in and modified the camera to be better than it was originally designed to be. Steve is an absolute nut when it comes to archiving things, whether it be floppies, films, photos, books, you name it. It is his passion. He does a lot of archiving of stuff, and I think he even archives Super 8 films that aren't even his. They're like other people's, but he still archives them because he doesn't want to see them gone. So anyhow, that's that one. We'll move on to the next one because I feel like that one has had.
I would like to, while we're still on that one, just say that we've had a lot of people that have joined Tinker Different based on this one thread alone. It's very active, and there's because obviously there's also a difference between the US models and the worldwide models, and yeah, we're getting a load of traction on this one particular project. It's definitely one of the most popular ones that we've had of 2024 so far.
That is amazing. I honestly did not think there were enough people out there to show an interest in this, but it is, I mean, that's fantastic to see. And, it was one of the things that I didn't even realize, that I had this sort of shared interest with Steve when he started doing some of this stuff. And I'm like, I've got this box full of Super 8 films from our family that go back to, there's ones of me when I was a little tyke, my dad was filming stuff and we were doing, magic tricks, I'm holding something and he stops the camera and takes it away and then it disappears. That sort of stuff, I was doing as I was probably about an 8-year-old or something like that. And of course, they're just wonderful things to archive them, because the whole thing about Super 8 films is that one of the things we used to do when we were younger is we would have a film night, and you might have some family over and you get the projector and you watch all the old movies, but that sort of thing doesn't really happen anymore. So once I digitized these films, I actually then sent the links out to members of the family, and they were absolutely gobsmacked. They were just so thrilled to be seeing these videos, sort of films for the first time in decades. And so yeah, it's a wonderful thing to get these things archived. So yeah, okay. So yeah, there are obviously a lot more people that are interested in that than I thought. Okay, so what's going on with this one? I'll hand this one over to someone else.
I have the conch on this one as well. This one is kind of my fault. So MMU Man is a verified genius. And it was one of these projects that was, he doesn't sleep, mostly because we keep saying, say 3 o'clock in the morning, hey, wouldn't it be cool if somebody designed this? And then staring at in his general direction. Basically, there is a component on machines like the LC3, which is this little power management controller IC. And it's one of those that we know it's got some reference. It's called the LS1176. But despite poring over data sheets and PDFs and just trying to find something, no one could kind of find out what the original IC was. So, yeah, MMU Man basically... there he is. Francois. I'm terribly sorry, I forgot your name. But yeah, he decided that he was going to make a chip or a board which fitted in the place of the original. And he's found one. And he's made one, as you can see. Yeah, I mean, so far, so good. Francois, do you want to expand on what I've been yammering on
so
about?
What is its purpose? I guess that would be my question to Francois. So we'll give him time to answer while we have a look here and see all of this. What is the benefit of this mod? Look at that. Okay, here's his answer here. It allows replacing broken chips that are close to caps usually with known good chips because they are new chips still in production, not some new old stock that possibly got desoldered from a battery bomb. So I am guessing that he found a replacement chip for this one, but maybe needed to change the pin out or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So
which is why if you look there, you can see that the actual chip is rotated 90 degrees because it's using a castellated PCB.
Oh, I love it.
So so it's using the castellations instead of legs, basically.
Yeah.
There we go. So the chip switches the egret power from battery to VCC when it appears and asserts reset.
Okay. Righto. And so, I mean, look, I am so glad there are smart people out there because we just benefit from it. That is just, not only is that all kinds of awesome, just the design of the way that fits on there is just so clever. I love it. So yeah, I can't blow this image up, unfortunately. I don't know why.
There's the whole idea of like the castellations on PCBs. I think it was actually there's a YouTuber out there called Gadget UK who does a lot of Amiga work, works on Acorn machines. And there was one particular, I think it was an SNK Neo Geo. And there's some chips in that which were basically, large PLCC chips, which were essentially just like multiple bus transceivers on a single package. So somebody went, well, if that's all it is, let's get some small surface mount parts and put them on a PCB in that place. And they're like, yeah, but how do we do the layers? So I was like, well, let's make castellations by, so exactly. You have it as a through hole edge, and then you cut through the middle of the through hole to make
so
a QFN part.
Anyone who has ever put a was it Raspberry Pi Pico onto a blue SCSI, and I'm guessing there's a few of them out there, you can either solder them on with a header, sort of header pins, or you can solder them directly onto the board with those little indentations on the side, and these are like that by the looks of it. So that's excellent. And I get quite a lot there on the board as well. So anyhow, that is an absolutely fantastic thing, and so we just have to obviously keep encouraging everyone to keep doing this sort of stuff, because that's just wonderful for everyone. That sort of stuff that really benefits us all. And is this something where, just asking Francois, is this something that you are kind of like selling, or is it something that you are making available, like on a GitHub somewhere where people could just download it themselves? So I could the answer to that is probably in this thread somewhere. But
apparently he sent some to Joe, but he's too busy to test them.
Well, you know who to send them to next time, don't you? As long as you don't mind sending it all the way to Australia, because that's wonderful stuff. So, okay, so let's move on to the next one. Plan on opening shop. That is a good move. Okay, good stuff. Okay, Apple Swim Chip adapters. Now, I know this is going to be a Kai one again. So
I didn't deliberately choose these so that I could yammer on at people. It's just
that's fine.
It's just some of the really cool stuff that's been put out in the last couple of months. Again, so this is Alex from Alex's Lab. Allows you to, again, so if you've got a PLCC 44 swim chip, and you need to put it in, say, a Macintosh SE, which is one of the very few systems which ever used a DIP28 swim chip. But there you go. You can now use a surplus, PLCC chip, which are way more abundant, and now you can make your machine work with a high density floppy.
So we are talking about, so the swim, I see here two different types here. We see a 28 and a 44, and so what, they are all compatible. They've just different package sizes.
Different package sizes, yeah. They're all exactly the identical silicon inside. The only thing with the PLCC 28 is the fact that they were used in the Mac 2. And that's it. So the Mac 2 shipped with an IWM, but then there was an upgrade kit that you could get for the Mac 2, which was a swim in PLCC 28. And that's the only system that ever used it. So I've never seen one in real life. I've never seen a photo of one.
I can send you a photo of one if you like.
Because I have one. Bruce.
When I
Good after the stream, don't get me excited.
So this is again. I'll just tell a quick little story here. So the very first Macintosh I bought for myself with my own money was a Macintosh 2, and I bought it 95. No, earlier than that, 92. No, anyhow, I bought it in the early 90s, and I then later on worked for a company doing a little bit of Mac technical support. And while I was there, the guy had the upgrade kit, the HD upgrade kit, which involves replacing, I think, was it either 2 or 4 of the ROM chips? I think it might have been
all of them.
All 4 ROM chips, and the one little PLCC swim chip. And so I got hold of that, and I upgraded that Mac 2. Now, that Mac 2 is long gone. I don't know where it is. It's probably in the ground somewhere, which is very, very sad. But I then, when I started getting back into collecting, I made it my mission to go out and get as many Mac 2s as I possibly could. At the moment, the count is 3. But one of them that came up, and I think it might have been an eBay or a marketplace or whatever, one of them that came up, just totally random, wasn't even from a collector. It was just a guy that had got hold of one. And I went to the door, gave him the money for the Mac 2. I picked it up, and I saw the little sticker. So when you bought this upgrade from Apple, you actually got stickers that fit into the little groove where the floppy drive bay is at the front. So and there was an 800K sticker and a whatever it was. It was a standard SD sticker and an HD sticker, or a 800K and a 1.4 sticker, something like that. And you would put the little stickers, because if you had two separate drives, you might have the original 800 in there, and then you have the 1.4 as well. And so you could put a sticker to identify which one was the high density and which one was the low. And I grabbed this Mac and I saw the sticker and I'm like, oh no. But don't tell me this has got the ROM upgrade. Got it home, opened it up. Sure enough, it did. So I did actually manage to get hold of a Mac 2 with the ROM upgrade. So it was, I was kind of, I guess, recreating what I had, all those years ago. So yes, I can take a photo of one and show you what it looks like if you want to.
To answer Justin's question on this, the reason for it was because you got to think about it this way: the Mac 2 was way more expensive than the SE. So they could have, afford to put the silicon in a PLCC package, which was more expensive to manufacture, in a Mac 2, because the cost was that much higher. They could justify it. If they were to do that with the Macintosh SE, it would have raised the cost of the machine by several $100s. So yeah, it was a cost-saving measure, but putting it in a DIP28 format for the SE.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So this is the same as, or similar to, I think what you did for the SC for, what was it, the ADB chip?
Yes,
You made that little board.
I did also send you one for trying the again, it was the PLCC 44 swim in a DIP28 package, but there was something up with the routing of that particular PCB. We couldn't get it to work, but yeah, it's very similar. It's just adapting one form factor to another.
Yep. Okay. Fantastic. All right. So that's another really, really nifty one there. So awesome work. So then what have we got here? I think we are. Oh, yes. Okay. Here we go. Now let's go back to page 1. So this has been discussed a little bit. Once again, for most of the people I'm sure in this chat will know this, but for those who don't, Apple used to make a little product for their technicians called a Tech Step, and it was designed to help diagnose a range of different computers. And you would have a little kind of ROM card thingy that you would put into it for the specific computer you were testing. You would connect it up to, what was it? I think you connect up the serial ports and the ADB and the SCSI or something. You plug all those things into the Tech Step and you would fire it up, and it would hopefully tell you what was wrong with the computer and how to then sort it out. And these things have just become like, the rarest things to find, because there really weren't that many of them out there. And so this project came about.
Last
There's a picture
page
of the
has the latest version.
Yeah, no worries.
So just posted today.
Okay, today. Okay, no worries. So we'll get to that.
You did it especially for the live stream, in time for it.
Okay, all right. Well, let's hurry up. As you can see, there are a lot of people posting on this, because I think they're all pretty darn excited. As I say, Steve has a Tech Step. I think Steve might even have 2 original Tech Steps.
Steve.
And yeah, I know, Steve.
I always knew he was a hoarder.
Yes, and so here we see
his basement alone.
underway. So there's your 2 serial ports and ADB ports, and there's our little switches and everything. I'm loving the way this thing is taking shape. I'm looking forward to clicking on the last page. Oh, look at that! That's so nifty.
Again, that's the prototype phase still.
Yep. Okay, let's go to 3, and well, look at that. Okay. That is looking absolutely amazing. And we'll keep going till we get to the latest post. What's that? That's February 14. July. Oh, okay. That was last year. Okay, cool.
Last year, yeah.
Here we go. That's October 3. We're starting to look at that. Keep going. Keep going. Yesterday.
There we go.
And look at that. Okay, so what we've got, Obvious difference is that the 18650 is gone from the keypad board, which allows the keypad to be centered like the original unit. The 5-volt booster regulator has been moved down on the logic board, and the external serial port flipped to the other side of the board to get it out of the way. So, yeah. Now, one thing I will say about the tech step.
Yes, there is an iPhone battery in there. Instead of an 18650, you can now use an iPhone 6 battery pack in there to power the unit.
Well, I've actually got a spare iPhone 6 battery, so I should get one of these. So we've got a video here. Oh yes, look at that. Oh, love it.
And all you have to do now is you just select the pack.
So they're built in.
Yeah, it's all built in. You don't need to go hunting around for different ROM packs or anything.
Oh, that is fantastic. So that was, of course, the other thing with the tech step, that if you happen to have a tech step, you then needed the little ROM packs as well, and you might only have one or two. Now, they were only available for a relatively small number of computers. I think they like 2CI or something might have been one of the last.
I don't know if they ever went up to Quadra. I think they kind of stopped with basically the Mac 2 line, and then after that it was like, oh, well, just buy a new one.
Did it do our forgotten friend of the Mac 2 line, the 2VX and 2VI?
I think it did actually. I think there was a ROM pack for those.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So, all right, so we've now basically got an all-in-one unit. We don't even need to worry about getting hold of the ROMs. It's all built into it. That is absolutely wonderful. So I am looking forward to, and so this has all been made with modern components.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
For the most part, yeah. I think there may be. Oh, hang on, sorry. I've got cat on the desk.
Well, Max is on the chat now, so
no. That way, thank you.
2VX and 2VI are supported. Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, that's basically.
Oh, there we go. There's Max.
Yeah, they were the last
Wild
of the Mac 2 lines. Yeah. We want to say our thanks, Max, for the wonderful work that you do. This is absolutely fantastic. I definitely feel like I'll need to get one of these. And it's sitting on a 2FX board, isn't it? In this video,
that's like the ultimate flex. It's like
he's just showing off now.
2FX to build and then test to make. It's like you're using that to test the thing that you're about to build that none of us have got to build yet.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to building one. I tell you, yeah. I'm going to be live streaming that, folks. I will definitely be doing a live stream of that one. And I'll give people plenty of warning so that they can jump on and watch if they want.
I've got a big enough box, Bruce.
Thank you. Dear, and of course you've got a working one that I need to send back to you, so that'll be done too. I'm terrible with putting.
I might just have another one made, and you could transplant that one because we know it works.
Yes, I mean, so I have a customer's 2FX board here, which is battery bombed, and I have my own 2FX board, which is battery bombed. I did a live stream on my one, and it is an absolute, it's just spaghetti on the back now with all the trace repairs that I've done, but it still doesn't work. So it's very tempting now and that one that I got that's battery bombed came with a case. So I have a 2FX case. All I need is the working board to go inside it. So that, that will be good fun to make that sort of happen. Okie dokie. So let's move on to the next one, shall we? Unless anyone else has anything they want to add about the tech step.
I think is Max. Did you hear or did it? Are these all modern components now, or are they? Is there any vintage components still needed for this? I just want to ask because he's jumped on.
Sure. Yeah.
But we don't need to wait. We can circle back.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, we can answer that. I think we're moving on now to software-based stuff. So resource forks. Now there's a face. There's a face we know. How would you like to take this one, Eric, and tell us a little bit about this?
So I've been playing with resource forks, and they've just been, we all remember playing around with ResEdit and opening up a game and looking at the pictures or pulling out an icon or doing something. And there's actually a lot of people, like developers, building actually ResEdit like UIs for Mac OS 14 and things like that. And there's command line utilities. And I was I've seen all these new projects kind of come up, and I was like, I thought I could put all these together, download a file from the garden, and kind of just dump all the resource forks into an HTML page and kind of just share them. So everyone can just go around and poke around and browse things, like they were in ResEdit. So if you just want to like click on one of those, like, I don't know, Prince of Persia, and open up a new tab, you can see resource forks.
Sorry, let's open up a window over here. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
But yeah, it just dumps all the sounds, the MIDI files, the icons, the fonts, all that stuff, and just found a little System 6 CSS. So Prince of Persia obviously has lots of sounds, some icons.
Fonts there. It's got the Prince of Persia font that we can see there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's all of our lovely little icons.
Yeah, and some and some have more in messages too, like, Prince of Persia must use quick draw for the screen depth and things like that. So you can kind of see some interesting error messages. Like some of them are like, you can't run this on a Mac XL or something like that. So you just kind of see some weird things that developers were putting in their apps at the time. So it's just kind of allowing people to kind of put or browse resource forks without needing to have an emulator or anything. Just kind of browse them. So I've been kind of grabbing them as I go and see an interesting app posted. I'll just dump the resource forks and put it out there. I was trying to actually do for March and Tosh, do one a day, but life got in the way of that. So I did about 5 or 10, and then I'll get back to it here at the end and do a couple more. So
now this looks like this is actually the text from the menu, file menu. Yes, this is the file menu. So you could go in, and if you were playing with ResEdit back in the day, you could go in and change the words in the menu.
And you can see like the key markers and stuff. So what keys were pushed? Because back in the day, you could obviously even change which keys were mapped to what. So.
Yes, of course, this is one of the things that often kills applications when people aren't aware of the fact that there is a resource and a data fork, so that when people take a file and maybe upload it to FTP, or if they copy it onto a PC or something like that, only the data fork makes it across and not the resource fork. And so that'd be fine if you're just dealing with, a Word document or something like that. But when you were talking about applications, they had all of this stuff in the resource fork. And so once they had the resource fork stripped, they wouldn't work properly anymore. So
the idea of resource forks is even still around in macOS 14. And actually, with the latest version of Disk Jockey, you can extract a file on macOS 14. They'll preserve the resource forks. They'll say it can't run it, obviously, because the CPU architecture doesn't match. It's not a 68K Mac. But, Bruce, you didn't like that? Just had a thumbs down again.
Oh no, it's not me. I didn't do it.
But you can preserve the resource forks. Some get stuck. But copy it to a Netatalk server, which will preserve the resource forks as well, and then copy it to your System 6 machine over AppleTalk, and all the resource forks are preserved all the way through. So it's kind of interesting how we all complain about how bad resource forks are, and it does get a lot of good, well-deserved grief, but the way it works if you're in the Apple ecosystem, it kind of is amazing that it still works. And
that is extraordinary. I actually did some resource fork editing recently. I was using Hard Disk Toolkit version, I think it was 1.8. And when you format a drive, it changes it into a little FWB hammer logo, a little black square with crossed hammers on it, and I don't particularly like that logo. I just like the standard little drive icon. And you do within that software have the option to go in and change the drive icon, but they don't have the plain drive icon I wanted. So I went into the resource fork of Hard Disk Toolkit, found all the icons for the drive icons, and went in and made my own the way I wanted it, so that now when I format with that on a vintage Mac, I can format, and then at the end of it, select the drive icon I want, and the one that I made is there, and I can just click on it. So that was something I did even just quite recently with working with ResEdit and making little personal edits to applications. So.
That was back in the day, how powerful, after you started to learn how ResEdit worked, and you could, kind of customize your OS and break your OS too, to your needs.
Well, that's Sean Action Retro. Sean posted a video. I think he was just posted today where he's working on a Mac Plus, and he had an operating system that he made many years ago. He said 2020, I think he made it, where it's when he starts the computer up, it says "Welcome to Sean's Macintosh." That's again, that's one of the little tinkery things that people would do, or get their applications to swear at them when they went to quit. So instead of saying, are you sure you want to quit, or do you want to save this document, they'd get them to, why are you quitting, you stupid idiot, or something like that. I mean, people would do those sorts of things. That's the sort of thing that I did anyway. Okay, so that is a cool little project. So people check that out. The resource fork aficionados out there. NetaTalk. Someone will need to explain this to me.
Yeah, so NetaTalk 2, I think we all kind of... Well, so NetaTalk is a file sharing, or Apple file sharing app that runs on modern operating systems like Linux and other things. So if you have a NAS, you might see you can enable NetaTalk or Apple file sharing protocol. But those are usually NetaTalk 3, because NetaTalk 2 was the precursor that supported all the kind of AFP or local talk, or I'm butchering some of the terminology because there's so many terms, but it supported the old way that Mac used to connect to AFP file shares. So what's his name? He's RD Mark, or I actually don't know. I've never tried to pronounce his name, but anyways, he's tried to kind of reinvigorate the NetaTalk 2 fork. So he's actually a PySCSI contributor as well. And he's been kind of just updating, applying security patches, doing quality of life improvements to NetaTalk 2, so people can use that, to share files on their network. Actually, they just released a Docker image, so if you have a NAS, you can just run a Docker container and share files. And that's what I was just discussing, is that I can share files. I can mount the actual AFP share on my M3 MacBook right here, and the same share on my Mac Plus over there. So it's really a great way if you're kind of in that NAS situation, or you have a NAS and you want to share some files, spin up NetaTalk 2 and you can share them all the way across.
So I have a little Mac Mini behind me that I use as a web server. And it's running Ubuntu on it. And what you're basically saying is I can go and install this on that, and then I could then turn that into like a little file server that I would be able to get all of my old vintage Macs to then go in and sort of mount drives and copy files. Yep, excellent.
And it supports time load, so you can do time syncing. It has printer support, so in Global Talk you see a lot of people sharing modern printers, and that's what they're using as NetaTalk 2. There's lots of, and it actually supports a lot of other Apple II stuff, network booting over Apple II and other things like that. I've never done, but that's tons of support for things in there.
Okay, well, that is definitely. I've been using just FTP to transfer files from old to new, but this sounds much neater.
And if you use this, it'll preserve those resource forks because it will place them in the right location, and it actually does some fixing of the forks as well. If you copy a SIT file over, it'll take a peek at that SIT file and fix the desktop database for you and all that fun stuff.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that is very nifty. Well, I'm definitely going to be installing that. Consider that done. As soon as I've finished stripping off the 2SI board for Kai, I'm then going to install this. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that is definitely one of the most useful things here, I think. Not that anything else is not useful. They're all useful. Okay. Disk click, emulate old hard drive sounds.
I love this one. I put this one in the pile because actually, again, this is a brand new contributor to Tinker Different. They joined, as you can see, in February. And pretty much the first thing that they did was put together this wonderful little app that basically mimics the sound of your old hard drive. When we all moved to SSD, one thing that went away along with it was the noise. And this isn't one of those things that just activates all the time and just goes off randomly. It actually goes along with disk accesses and makes the relevant sounds. And it's not just generic hard drive noise. No, there's a library of different disks you can select from a drop-down menu and just be like, do you know what? Today I want to sound like a quantum fireball. Or tomorrow I want to sound like an IBM Desk Star. And
is there one that will make it sound like a stepper motor?
You can, yeah. Yeah, seriously. There are legitimately people on YouTube who put out videos with a microphone next to a hard drive and a camera pointing at it, and they power it on and do stuff, and that's exciting. So
I just found this. I'm not sure if you can actually see that. I've put a sticker on this hard drive that says "works" in brackets barely. So is this available? So we're not talking about putting this on vintage computers. We're talking about putting this on modern.
So this is for modern machines. Okay, again, this is one of the things that we want to explain to people. Tinker Different is not all just vintage Mac stuff. We got a lot of that stuff, but also it's just for anything. It's just a hack space in general. So yeah, this obviously runs on Windows, but it's written in Python, so it's portable to Linux, potentially modern Macs as well. And I don't know, just I do rather like the sound of being able to hear a hard drive and not having to go to Task Manager to figure out if my SSD is doing something.
I know one of the things that was a big mess of wires created for the floppy emulator or the floppy emu. Had that little inline thing that you could put that had I think it just had like a little relay in it or something that just goes click, 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 click to try and replicate the clicking sound of an old floppy drive for vintage computers, which I always looked at and thought, how unnecessary is that? But a lot of people bought them. So.
Yeah. And also, our vice president Drake, he also put one of those out in the wild as well. Although that was based, I think, on a piezo buzzer instead of a moving relay.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. No, it was I can't remember. I have one over there, but yeah, it's a little drum. If you put it, I forget what the actuator is on it though, but if you put it on a case, it kind of beats or hits the case for some of the noises. And it does have the one nice thing about it is it does have like the startup sound, so it does the tick 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 tick, like the aligning the heads or whatever. So it kind of sounds like
that is cool. That is very cool. Okay, all right, there's that one. And then we're getting to the end of the list here, folks. So if anyone here is starting to get tired, don't worry, we won't be going too much longer. Bootable DOS Tools CD.
Yes.
What have we got going on here?
So Stinkerton, who is one of our moderators, he's basically put together this just fantastic CD, which basically has everything on it. If you're into your vintage PCs, then again, do you want to install Windows 95 OSR2, 98 SE, ME, 2000 XP? It's all available on single disk now. And you've got Ghost on there, you've got Partition Magic, old version of Norton Antivirus, just everything you could possibly want as a collection of utilities and installers for PCs.
Oh, that is fantastic. I actually have a similar thing for Macs, but it's not a CD, it's a USB drive, where, it just has all of the Apple service diagnostics tools, and it has all of bootable versions of operating systems and installers of systems and all that sort of stuff. So this sounds very, very similar to that one I have, but so this all fits on a CD, a single CD.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very nifty.
And also give a shout out to Stinkerton because he's done a lot of work on SCSI cards for Blue SCSI and SCSI drivers and things like that. So putting together these kind of mashups of all those, AutoEXE or config.sys things you need for SCSI cards. And then, of course, this is really helps people because I think a lot of that information is just kind of hard to come by, and having all these tools and things in one place is pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I mean this is actually one of the things that is a little bit frustrating with the hardware, and again one of the reasons why sort of a lot of us are all very keen to make sure things get sort of archived, because you can get hold of the most amazing piece of hardware, but there might be no drivers available for it, and you can't do anything with it until you get the drivers, and it's just fantastic. And a lot of the companies that these came from don't even exist anymore, so it's not like you can go and ask them for them. And so I can't even remember. There was who was it? There was someone working on something recently. I think it might have been. It was either Sean or Colin. I can't remember, either Sean from Action Retro or Colin from This Does Not Compute. I can't remember, but they.
Colin, that Firewire device.
Yes, the NAS box, the great big
SAN.
Firewire NAS box. Yeah, the SAN thing. Yeah, that
SAN
he.
cube.
It's here's this amazing piece of hardware which would have cost thousands back in the day, that has this sort of shareable type Firewire box. I mean, shareable in that you have to be a Firewire cable's distance away from it, but and it had whatever it was, 6 drives in it or something like that, and it is basically a doorstop without the drivers, because it doesn't use any standard drive formatting software or anything like that. If you don't have the drivers, it is absolutely useless. And I remember watching that and thinking, how frustrating. And he just hasn't been able to get hold of them. And mind you, I did speak to him just recently, and he said that someone reached out and said that they are pretty sure they have the drivers. So he was hopefully getting them from them. So nice. I hope I haven't let out a secret there. I mean, there might be another video coming, and I've just let the cat out of the bag. I don't know. But we may see that one going eventually. So
I'd like to say that actually on the PC side of things, when it comes to drivers, specifically for integrated devices on motherboards and stuff, one of the best resources out there is the Retro Web, if anyone is unfamiliar with it. They essentially have every single motherboard that I ever remember owning, it's on there. And not only is it on there, again, from defunct manufacturers like A-Bit and Epox, they have all of the user manuals. They got the drivers archive, the BIOS versions, for all of these boards, jumper settings, photographs of the board forward and back for comparison purposes. It's a brilliant resource if you're dealing with problems like that in PC land. Okay, well, we will definitely put a link to that in the description at the end for anyone who is watching this. Hello to anyone who is watching this on the replay. So we'll just have to remember that, to remember to put it in there. Okay, so that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much to Stinkerton for all his hard work there. Let us move on. I think we are now looking at 3D printing stuff. So this is where Francois again.
Okay, here we are.
He's at it again. I think this is fantastic. If you've ever had problems trying to locate like PGA sockets for 030s, 040s, that sort of thing, I could just go and buy them from PE connectors. If you're in the States, you can. For the rest of us, it's like, no, we don't deal with outside the US, so we've got to find some sort of shipping proxy, which adds another layer. Why bother when you can now just print one yourself?
Yeah, and so the little pin things, these that have, they're like a little socket and a pin as well. Where would we buy these little guys from?
You can get these from Mouser. You can get them from DigiKey. You can get them from RS. In Australia, I believe you can get them from JCar as well.
What are they called?
Or you can just pull these out of any turned pin header strip. You could just
of course,
strip, or just use you can repurpose it that way.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the little header strips. Yeah, so what?
Or AliExpress. Francois,
do they have a name? These little things? What?
Oh, I think they're just turned pins.
Pins.
I know that on places like AliExpress, you can get them in like bags of 500.
Yeah, okay.
But they might not be very straight. But yeah, machined pins. There we go.
Machined pins. Okay, good. Because I mean, look, let's face it. This is no criticism to you, Francois, but that's a pretty basic bit of 3D illustration there. It's there's not a lot to building something like this. It just took someone to think of the idea of doing it. And that's just fantastic to see. Because I actually had a situation where I had a problem with this a little while ago, and I ended up making something up using rows of like header pins. It didn't even really occur to me to 3D print something. So yeah, it takes smarter people to do that. It may have been before I had my 3D printer. I've only had a 3D printer for a few years. So
I like the fact that with this one as well, you don't need a resin 3D printer. I mean, Francois was saying on an uncalibrated Ender 2 in PET.
Yeah, okay,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, look at it. That's amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Okay. Well, there's another absolutely awesome thing and another very, very useful thing there. So that's brilliant. So thank you, Francois, for your work. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Unless anyone has any further comment they would like to make on this one, I shall move on to the next one. And okay, what have we got going on here? Stephen,
one of our founder members,
yes,
has been very, very busy on Thingiverse. So if you've ever bought anything like a Power Macintosh 8600, 9600, G3 Tower, they're usually missing drive bezels if they've been abused. No more, because on Thingiverse, Stephen has made it possible for you to now print your own.
Oh, beautiful. Lovely. So look, I'm sure we don't need to tell people this. I'm sure they all know, but round about the time, sometime between the LC2 and the LC3, the plastic makeup changed. I've had someone tell me it was actually to do with a fire retardant. I don't know if that is the case.
Yes. If you get an ABS case, it doesn't go brittle. If you have ABS plus FR on the inside of your lid, it will shatter. It will break, and it will be awful. And weirdly, I think there's also a geographical component to this as well, because I know that some people, I know Tech Knight absolutely swears by the fact that LC 475 cases just, you pick it up and it just turns to dust in front of you. I've never found that on LC 475s, Power Macintosh 6100s, anything like that. We got the tabs at the back you got to lift up. Never had a problem with any of them. But then again, mine have never said ABS plus FR on them.
I have to go look at my 6100 because it was my original 6100, and I was like, oh, I'll just clean this, and I touched the CD thing on the front, broke instantly.
I was mentioning before that I got this big lot of computers, and one of the ones that I got was, I think it was 8500, 8600, something like that. I can't remember. The one that kind of looks like an 840 AV type thing, but a bit bigger. And, when I used to work with these sorts of computers back in the 90s, I had to open them all the time for RAM upgrades and that sort of stuff. You just unscrew the things at the back. You just yank the front off, and you just put your finger between the plastic at the back and the metal covering. You just pull them apart, just whip them out. And I got hold of this one, and I did that. I just treated it like I used to when I used to work with them. I just undid the back, and I just yanked it apart, and it just it's just collapsed into pieces. I'm holding the back in one hand, and all of the bits falling out from the other side. I'm like, okay. So
I mean, there's a Power Macintosh 8100 down in that corner. The CD bezel again. All I did was move the machine, and the bezel just went and just fell off the front because the clip on the inside just turned to dust.
I thought all you had to do was look at them, and they went.
It's collapsed.
I did hear someone say that in different environments. So apparently, if you are in a more humid environment, these plastics will sometimes last a little longer.
Oh well, then we're fine here in England. It's crap here.
Yeah. So that might be why your LC 475 is still good. Because I'll tell you what, my 475, every time I touch it, something else breaks off it. So,
I bought an LC 475 from Japan, and I'm actually surprised that the case stayed as intact as it did in shipping. Mind you, it was falling apart quite nicely when I got it.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyone who buys any of these vintage computers will know that when you get hold of these, if you buy one and you get it and it's all the bezels are intact, it's like winning the lottery. I mean, that's the thing. But of course, we've got, sort of quite a lot of people are actually been going in and recreating a lot of these bezels. You know, I have actually created a few, you know, sort of parts for, you know, for the Macs as well. And
power button for the 7500 series.
there is
Someone
so.
did that.
I'm pretty sure you did the
Yeah.
power button on the 7500.
No,
like
I modified that. Yeah, so someone had actually done that, and I wasn't very happy with it because I just didn't like the way the little line in the middle and the circle of the power button. I didn't particularly like it. And then the other thing is they brought it up to a real point, and when you've got 0.2 layer line, 2 millimeter layer lines, you know, you could really see the steps on the top as it was circular. So I actually flattened off the front a little, and it just ended up making it look a lot better. What you can do if you have one of those buttons and it's crumbled, you can just take the button itself off and then 3D print the springy bit and glue that on. So you end up with an original button. So from the outside, it looks original. But then you've actually got the springy mechanism as a reproduction. So that's one of the things that people are doing as well. If you still have the button, sometimes when they break, they get lost. So that's but yeah, I mean, whether it be bezels, and of course people now producing bezels for a lot of these vintage Macs with slots for blue scuzzies in them as well, which you know, it's a wonderful thing that if you want to mount a blue scuzzy on there and have a little blue scuzzy logo, because a lot of these, you know, in the olden days would have had, you know, zip drive bezels, because there was, you know, I mean,
I was going to say there is actually on Stephen's post as well. So obviously there's the one for the G3 blank bezel. I'm just wondering if we can go back to his post on the forum. He hasn't put it up there, but he does have another one that he has put out, which is for the magneto-optical drives. So if you've got a 3.5-inch MO drive, it can go where the zip drive would go on those outrigger cases. There we go. The MO640i drive cover.
Yeah.
So that again, was a Japanese part, but any 3.5-inch MO drive will then look like it belongs in an outrigger case, and you don't have to hack apart a zip drive bezel to do it.
For anyone who happens to be watching, just putting out the word, I am actually trying to get hold of some MO media. I have 230 meg drives, the 3.5-inch ones, and I have 650 meg drives, and I have no discs for them. And
I got like a box of them literally just there, Bruce. What size do you need?
Okay. I would ideally just like 1 230 and 1 650.
Okay.
Now, but this is going to test you. This is really going to test you. I am also after a disc for this one here. This is MCD. Now, this is a... Oh, God, I got to try and remember the name. I'm going to have to do it. This is a 540 megabyte. It's not a MO. It's a platter drive. And it was made by... I can't remember. Hang on. I just got to look them up. Give me 2 seconds here. MCD 540. That's the thing. Nomai. 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 Now, Nomai made their own multimedia, here we go, cartridge to sort of compete with SideQuest and all that. And it was 540 megabyte, 3.5-inch removable hard disk. And I have the drive, but I have never even seen a disc. So if anyone happens,
that's worth looking on somewhere like Mercari or Yahoo Auctions Japan through Bai or
yeah, is it Nomai? I'm gonna we'll pronounce it however we like. So all right, well, and look, this is another thing I just want to mention really quickly about this stuff. What is so fantastic about a lot of these 3D models that people are making up is they are sharing them on places like Thingiverse. So I know that the stuff that I create, most of the stuff is available on Thingiverse, or it soon will be. One of the things I have, which if I can find it here, it's probably here, or it might not be, was a replacement for the battery in the 128K, 512K, and Mac Plus. For those who aren't aware, there are 4.5 volt battery in those, just an alkaline battery. They're not lithium or anything like that. And they're quite hard to get hold of. So I have created a little holder that use a little M3 screw and a spring and put inside it 3 1.5 volt LR44 or A123 batteries that take you up to that 4.5 volts. And it's the same size as the original battery. So that's something that I'll be publishing on Thingiverse soon as well. So, and of course, brackets. Lots and lots of brackets. It's all about brackets.
The great thing about this too is that so many people have a 3D printer or know someone who has a 3D printer, and a lot of these color, we don't have a perfect color match, but we have very close color matches. I have one of those bezels printed out over there, and that's a little dim, and you can hardly tell that that's a different color than the beige right over there. Yeah. So and the 3D printers these days are getting so printing such nice prints that you can print something off and have it look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, my very first printer, an Ender 3 V2, if I wanted to print something, I would only ever print one, because if you started printing multiples of those things, you would start getting really noticeable layer lines. But I now have a Creality K1 printer, which is blazingly fast, and that I'm going to print 10 of something, and they all come out perfect. I mean, it's just the advancement in these printers, and this has had no mods. It's just straight out of the box. Yeah. So fantastic stuff. So yeah, I mean, I hope people keep doing these sorts of designs and keep uploading them to Thingiverse, because they are of great benefit to the community in general. It's wonderful stuff. And what else do we have here? Oh, I love this one. This one's a nice little practical one. Him again.
Sleep, man.
Yeah. So
I like the way that post starts off. Instead of finishing my other projects for doing overdue paperwork, I made this part.
Yeah. So So looking at the old floppy, mouses. I've got this one here. It's not the same sort of mouse, but all the old mices and mices, they all had these little screw-on covers, and same with the trackballs that you would basically have a little push in and turn, and to hold them. And I mean, for instance, I have a black ADB mouse that was one of the ones that came with those black 5000 series sort of power PCs in the day, but it doesn't have that little ring on there. So it's my intention to go in and through it. There we go. Look at that. And that is a very bespoke piece of plastic.
Well, funnily enough, the reason why I even came across this is because the ring on this one is also the little retaining clips have snapped, so it's just kind of sitting there, and it's kind of wedged in place with a piece of card. So finding this part, this is one of those ones that I think a resin printer would come in handy
for sure.
Because of the dimensions of it. But it's about the only thing, which means, I mean, look, how about this for rare? I've still got the flap on the back and it still works.
Oh,
and crazy. No tunnel vision on a black and white screen.
Don't tap it like that; it'll fall off. So look, absolutely fantastic. So just people in the chat here who here dabbles with a little bit of the old 3D illustration, and if you do, sort of tell us what software you're using to do your designs. I'm always interested to see what people use. For many years, I actually used some software that I used in the 90s, which was it was Lightwave, and I was using it for creating models of products and stuff like that. We used to do product mock-ups, and it did the job, but it really wasn't the right sort of software to be using for this sort of design. There are much, much, much better tools, and I'm just always interested. So what about you guys? Are you guys doing 3D illustrations?
Francois said he's using OpenSCAD for this model.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've used it once before. It's one of these things that's probably really good if you know how to use it, but learning how to pilot the space shuttle would probably be simpler.
It's all I mean, it's a programming like DSL language, which I mean is interesting to describe all your 3D models in a programming language, or domain specific language here, but you have to learn it. So
yeah,
it is really powerful though, and it does get, I don't know if you ever opened up like a model. It allows you to have like variables and you can adjust things. And so if you ever see those things like I want a tray and I want it 4x4 instead of 2x6 or whatever it is, it allows you to just spit out a new model with those different variables.
There's a product that I'm using at the moment. So what I've always been interested in is the concept of free. I like the idea of something being free. So I thought I would give, say, Blender a try. But once again, Blender is more focused around, sort of modeling for movies and stuff like that. It's not really that good with all the geometric stuff. And there are plenty of free ones out there, but they have limitations on them. And I've recently discovered Onshape. And I will be doing a video on this, sort of like a beginner's guide to getting started with Onshape, because I am incredibly impressed with the way it works. When you model stuff, you have the option to position things in relation to something else. So as you described there, so for example, if I create a box of a particular size and then I start attaching things to the side of the box and all that sort of stuff, they attach to a particular surface. If I then move that surface, it just moves with the surface. So, if you want to go and change the dimension of things, it's very easy to do without having to go in and remodel stuff. And that one is proper free, as in you can use it as much as you want. The downside to it is web-based, though it is very, very sort of, very quick. I mean, I sort of have never had any issues with it being slow or anything like that. And it's web-based. And if you use the free version, everything you create is public. And so it means that anyone else that jumps onto Onshape, they can actually use the model you have created. Now, people might be like, oh, no, privacy, it's my model. And that's fine. If you get the paid version, you get to make your models private. But remember, there is a flip side to your models becoming public, and that means that everyone else's models become public. And an instance that I had recently where I was creating a case for a Raspberry Pi, I was able to just grab a Raspberry Pi model from their library of thousands and thousands of models and get that Raspberry Pi, bring it into my model, and then just model around it to make sure that the screw holes are in the right place and the little holes in the back for all the ports are in the right place. So actually making it so that it's it's this public library, it really works to your benefit as well.
Yeah, I was kind of joking, like OpenSCAD is real, like it's really difficult, but I actually, all my stuff is, what I do use is Tinkercad, which is like Legos, right? But it's the only thing I can get useful models out of, because it's kind of straightforward. So Onshape, it was Onshape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That sounds a lot like it's kind of like that, but with a little more advanced tooling is kind of what I want, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. That is probably the next video I'm going to be doing, and it's just going to be an introduction to Onshape. But I'm going to actually build something. I'm going to have an actual thing. I'm going to say we're going to build this, like a practical thing, and I will just be going in and explaining the different tools as I go in and build it. So that's as soon as I finish this video about Flux. More and more Flux. So, that is the last on the list here. So, does anyone else have anything they want to add or discuss about anything to do with Tinker Different and things and such? I can move my mouse here.
No, I'll give a plug for kind of the Marchintosh and kind of Global Talk stuff going on. It's mostly been happening on Mastodon, but people have been posting a few of the things and a few of the things, guides on Tinker Different. So, if you haven't seen it, Marchintosh is just kind of everyone kind of doing Macintosh related things and Macintosh related content in the month of March. And one of the big things is this Global Talk network. So people figured out how to make Apple Talk internet router connect to each other. So people are printing to other people's printers, file shares, playing games over Apple Talk and all that fun stuff. So if you, even if you don't have a vintage computer, people have emulator images now that can you can jump on and get into the fun. So yeah, check it out.
Yep. No, and I sort of have mentioned this before. This was something that happened coincidentally around about the time of March and Tosh. It wasn't actually by design. This someone figured this out around about that time, and it's been. I haven't actually participated yet. I really need to, but it's just given. It's basically turned all of these vintage computers into one great big network, which is just a lot of fun. And I've seen people been sort of copying their own files onto other people's servers and stuff like that and sharing things around. And obviously Steve did a live stream of his printer where sort of people were printing. And it was funny because I had that live stream going in the background and most of the time it was just silent. And then all of a sudden you just hear this, and it's like, what the hell is that? And then you realize it was the stream in the background and someone suddenly started printing something.
Yeah. We were watching a movie and someone was printing to my printer and my son goes, "What is that terrible noise?"
Jeremy, sorry. I was just going to say, Jeremy has asked a question, which was, has anyone had a crack at cloning the original keyboard for the Mac 128K 512K/Plus? I don't know of any. But, again, Francois, what are you up to now? Do you need to sleep?
I've got a broken one. If you want to use that as a base,
I mean, again, we have 3D printers. We've just seen a guy on YouTube basically remanufacture a Macintosh Plus and 3D print that. So, keyboard, easy. I mean, the key matrix. I mean, you can fit some Matthias switches to it, and then it will have the same feel as an AEK2.
Yeah, and there's Arduino emulators for it too. So if you just wanted to get a modern key switch, PCB in the right size, and then hook up an Arduino for the RJ11 type connection.
Okay, so when can we expect it, Eric?
Oh no, I got a couple of them. I'm okay.
But maybe whoever does replicate the 128 512 plus keyboard, maybe you might consider putting in some reverse voltage protection.
Oh yes, indeed.
Like a diode.
A diode, yeah, that's right. Yes.
Something just in case.
Once again, I will tell the backstory of this in case anyone is watching and not aware. The cable that goes from the keyboard to the computer for those old Macs is an RJ11 connector, and it looks very, very similar to the cable that would go from a phone handset to the phone base. Curly and everything. They looked very, very similar, but they were wired back to front. And if you used one from a phone, you would fry the keyboard. So that was just want to thank Apple for that one. That was. I actually have a fried keyboard, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened to it. I think that's what happened to most of the dead ones that are around there.
I must use an 8049 keyboard controller or something similar. I mean,
I have some replacement chips of those.
Okay.
Yeah, but it didn't fix it, so it's probably something else. But
I'm just wondering that. I mean, if those microcontrollers are out there, then I mean, I know in Amiga land it's all been reverse engineered, and they use, I think, the same or very similar keyboard controller chips. So, and again, that was using something like an RP2040 or something in place of the original keyboard controller, and it would do all the translation and everything that the original did.
So you're on that. Kai's on that, everyone.
Yeah,
so
sure. Just sign me up for another project.
And I do have a request for the 2SI Reloaded board. I think I mentioned this before, but this is the formal request. Can you please add SCSI power to the 2SI when you recreate
that should be easily doable, actually.
Good.
Think about it. That should be easily doable. Because SCSI power, I mean, just
5 volt with a diode.
Yeah,
all you need.
That's doable. Well, I think just link the power pin straight to the voltage plane.
Why not?
Yes. Okay. Any new news in the blue SCSI front, Eric?
Yeah, I can show off I can't show off a couple of things. I can tease a couple of things though. So let me just So if you didn't notice on the last 2 revs of the Blue SCSI, there was, let me grab this is a prototype one, but there's been this quick connector. I don't know if you've seen that. So it's an I2C bus. So you can hook up things like rotary encoders and screens and so I have most 99, well, I'll say 95% of the code up and running for a UI for, say, switching CDs or changing configuration or something on the fly. So you'll be able to hook up right now, these are just SparkFun I2C connectors, so you can just go buy them kind of off the shelf and make a little case around them. They have some mount points, but eventually we'll try to just make a board with everything already included. A nice little case that you could put on, look nice on the front of your computer. So I know a lot of people with samplers and other things like PySCSI because of the menuing systems, and they have a control board as well. So that'll be something coming in the next month or so for Blue SCSI.
I have a request.
Yeah.
If this may not even be technically possible, but one of the things I would love to be able to do via like a display and a rotary encoder or something like that would be to be able to enable or disable SCSI images, or potentially change their SCSI ID.
Yeah, I mean, so there was a concept in Blue SCSI V1 of image sets that wasn't used all that much. You could just set some jumpers to say, you know, this is my Mac Plus set, this is my, you know, Power Mac set, and this is my whatever set. And then also have a shared directory where, you know, if it was like your data image, so you could have that across all of those. So I have been thinking a little bit about kind of that use case. So, I mean, the use case you're trying to get at, I think, is to, you have multiple computers and you want to kind of change the configuration without having to pull out the SD card and go do something.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about how best to do that. So probably not the first iteration, but a future iteration would have something along those lines. So something to make that kind of image set possible in a nice kind of easy way. So
okay. We have another question here. I can press the little button and make it appear on the screen here. Is tape drive emulation in the works?
So Blue SCSI V2 is based off SCSI 2 SD, which does have tape drive emulation on the back end. I think I've never used it before because I don't know the use case for it. So I actually do know some people with like Sun tape images, and I really don't even know how those images are formatted or work. But I am getting a tape drive from someone, so I can kind of dig into that a little more and figure out what is going on, because some people opened a question on GitHub about using initiator mode to make a copy of their tape, and a tape doesn't have random seek, so you can't just say start at sector 1, then go to sector 2, and then go to sector 700 or something like that. You have to like kind of, it's different commands. So I'll need to program that up. So need to get a tape drive and figure out how they work. I've never actually used a tape drive in my life, so it'll be
I have. It's a horrific experience, and I suggest firing it out of your nearest window when you're done with it.
There was some software that we used to use many years ago. It was a product called Desk Tape. And so typically when you had a tape drive, certainly in the Mac world, you had a tape drive, you had retrospect. And that was the standard. So you back stuff up with retrospect. Retrospect was a very full-featured application. You could put a client on every computer in the office, and then you could just automatically set it up, make sure everyone left their computers on, and it would just back up every single computer onto the tapes at night. And so, you know, it was very, very handy software. But there was this other application called Desk Tape, which was designed more around archiving of stuff. And so what you could effectively do is you could have your tape drive connected, you could put a tape in there, and it would appear as a drive on the desktop. And then you could copy files to it. You'd have to sit there and wait for it to go and write the file to the tape. And it would then store like a directory on your computer rather than on the tape.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you could at any time, you could take a tape out, and you could at any time go and open up your little desk tape icon on your desktop, open it up. You can find a file. You say, I want this file. I want to go copy it off. So it would just appear like any other drive, but you would grab the file to copy it off onto another computer, and then it would come up and say, put in tape 3. And then so you go put in tape 3, and it would fast forward to the spot, and then it would copy that file across, and then and do it that way. So it effectively turned a tape drive into a large, like storage drive, and that was a nifty little tool. But I don't know anyone else has ever even heard of it. So yeah,
it's just something new to learn. So that's why I'm
yeah,
doing it.
yeah. I've got some spare tape drives I could loan you, but it probably costs more than the tape drive to send it to you.
Probably. I got a couple on the way, so we're good.
I had like the cost of like an LTO 4 despite my irrational/rational hatred of them, I was looking for one for doing my local backups, my R520, and the cost of some of the drives is astronomical. Like LTO 2, LTO 3, the drives are fairly cheap. You get to LTO 4, LTO 5, and it's like, oh yeah, this drive is only £3,000. Sorry, what?
Did anyone ever watch? Was it with that movie Rogue One, the Star Wars movie? They use tape backup even in the
the arms on grabbing them.
Yeah, going grabbing tapes. I thought that was amazing.
Razor had that in it as well. The tape archive kind of library thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. My local pharmacy has one of those for picking up boxes of pills. You can seriously, you can kind of see this. What they got it like behind a glass window. You can kind of see this. All in aid of getting Ethel her medication.
Now, we are drawing to the end here, but I just want to remind everyone that we are available for questions. If anyone has any questions, either for one of us individually or for us as board members of Tinker Different, if they have questions about Tinker Different or anything like that, that's another one of the reasons why we have this live stream, so people can access things. So if anyone does have any questions, now is the time to chuck them in there, and we will do our best to answer them.
Jeremy has a follow-up one for Eric.
Yep. He asked about an 8-bit SCSI tape drive controller card. I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know much about tape drives and how they work, so I will keep that in mind. But it's kind of just figuring out how these things all work and how to emulate it. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we have definitely covered a lot in this live stream. Here we go. Just anyone sees a question pop up, please shout out. And I am definitely looking forward to rebuilding a 2FX board. So I'm just so pleased that these recreations are being done.
While we wait too, I have something that I can show quick. That is, I kind of teased it before, but I don't know if anyone's heard of FujiNet.
Is that for the X68000?
Well, I think the name, because people can never identify what it is from the name, I think, but it's actually a floppy drive emulator for multiple different systems. So they do like Apple II and other things like that, but they've recently added 68K Mac, very early support for 68K Mac. So I have a Rev 0 board here. It actually has an ESP32 for a kind of Wi-Fi. They have a web interface and kind of a whole stack of supporting features and software on the ESP32, but then they use the PIO and Pico for driving the controller or in reading and writing to the floppy drive. So it can do HG20 and MOOF files, so that kind of flux level files.
Nice.
So it only works in the plus or 800K and below. So like an SE, a Mac 2 with an 800K and below right now. But people are working on it. Things are moving. I wouldn't go pick one up today, but unless you wanted to kind of dive in and tinker with it. But it's coming along. So it'll kind of be the first open competitor on floppy emulation for the Mac.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Cool. Yeah. Cool bananas. We have a question here from Dave. If money was no object, what is the best 3D printer on the market?
Controversial.
Yeah, it's a very controversial question.
I would like to weigh in with the Anchormake M5 because the speed on that thing is off the scale. That you watch some of the prints that can be made on that thing. You think this is sped up footage. It's not. It is real time. It is printing that fast, and the quality is that good.
Yeah, this is actually something that I find with the K1 that I use, the Creality K1, is that when you are watching it, you're actually standing there watching it live, not even filming it. You're watching it. You think you're watching sped up footage. You think that it's in fast motion with the speed that the head moves around. So it's a Core XY printer. That's one of the ways they get real speed out of these printers, which is different to the conventional, what do they call it? Was it Cartesian or something? I can't remember what the term is. There's a word that they use for
Cartesian.
the other sort. Cartesian, yeah, okay. Cartesian. So, and of course, the other thing you also have to remember is that 3D printing, you think about what it is you want to do. Now, the very first printer that I got was a very, very user serviceable one. Replace parts, modify it. You can make it bigger if you wanted. You could put bigger rails on it. You do all sorts of different mods to it. And that's a really good way to learn 3D printing. You learn a lot about the technical stuff behind it. You learn how to fix problems when they happen. Why is this lifting up off the bed? Why am I getting layer delamination? These sorts of things that might turn up, and you get to learn all about them. And it's more of it's less of that kind of just plug it in and go. I'm going to grab a model from Thingiverse and print it. This is where you actually really learn a lot of the theoretical stuff behind 3D printing. And my recommendation is to anyone wanting to get into 3D printing, that's a really good place to start. Start with a printer that's probably inexpensive, but is one where you can really get a feel for all the technical stuff, learn about, things like E-steps and stuff like that. If you want to go down and you're just saying, no, I'm not interested in that. All I want to do is download off Thingiverse and print it, and they come out right every time. And that's when we start getting into the printers, things like the Bamboo Labs or the Creality K1, where you have, you don't really have to bother yourself about it. But what we also have to remember is that speed does sometimes come at a cost. A lot of these printers, they for instance, some of them have graphite rails, and graphite rails wear down. And so you can be printing with these happily, and then you're going to have to then start replacing parts on these things because they've sacrificed durability for speed. So, these are things you have to consider as well. But what I will say is that having a really fast printer totally changes your perspective on 3D printing. When you can print something in less than an hour rather than, say, 5 hours or something like that. I guess it just it makes it more practical, a lot more usable. I use these for printing things like brackets. I use them for printing replacement parts for things that have broken, and therefore prolonging the life. I use them for storage, options, ways of storing things in a clever way. But in terms of the best printer out there for the money, if you ask a Bamboo fanatic, they're going to tell you it's going to be the Bamboo, what is it, X1 or something like that?
The X1C, yeah,
X1C.
That's what I have.
Yep.
And it is the best. No, I'm just kidding.
There is also something which no one's brought up yet. Is do you want to do FDM or do you want to do resin?
Yes.
Resin is perfect for small items that require very, very, very high accuracy.
Detail.
I've got an Elegoo Mars 2 Pro that was very kindly donated to me by Mark Fix's stuff. The build area isn't massive, but for things like the power button we mentioned earlier for the outrigger cases, that's like the ideal scenario for it because the resolution is like 50 micron on parts like that. All too often, I've printed something in FDM or tried to print something with FDM, and it looks like crap. But on a resin printer, it would look just like perfect, like it would just come out of a plastic mold.
Yep.
Francois has mentioned gears here, and obviously things like those replacement gears for the floppy drives on the Macs. You forget about trying to print them with FDM.
Yeah.
So if anyone's FDM is the filament type printers, and and then you have the resin sort. And I was actually just chatting to someone the other day, and he creates figurines. And his figurines need to have an incredible amount of detail for them. And he's basically just got 4 resin printers printing nonstop. Just because he sells these figurines overseas.
Warhammer stuff is like very popular. I mean, I'll have everybody in the office going, "Oh, hey, can you print me some Space Marines?" I'm like, no, no, I'm not setting up a production line.
Can you print me a lightsaber, please?
I don't have a lightsaber, but I have printed out a Imperial Star Destroyer for my brother, and the only reel of filament that I had was this Creality kind of starter filament, which is one of those ones where the color kind of changes as you print stuff, so you end up
the rainbow filaments, yeah,
the rainbow filament. So basically, I have the gayest Star Destroyer ever. that's going off to my brother. He's like, I'm gonna paint it.
yes. I got one of those rainbow filaments as well. Because I did a review of a Creality printer, Ender 5S1, and I had to print many benchies for the review, and so I've got this bag full of rainbow colored benchies. So
one of those.
Yes, that's one of those, which, of course, if anyone has ever tried, it doesn't actually float. They're top heavy.
Doesn't.
If you put them in water, they fall over.
What?
So that's the challenge. Someone needs to make a seaworthy benchy.
Jeremy's actually got a very good question, which is it's not really a question. So the issue he's having is keeping the project stuck to the bed while being printed. Use a raft. You print with a raft rather than a skirt, and that way, you're ending up using a bit more filament in order to do it. But since I started printing with a raft, I've never had a problem printing parts onto anything.
The 3 options for bed adhesion: there's a skirt, there's a brim. Skirt sits outside of the object. The brim goes all the way in and touches the object, and a raft is actually like a whole lump of thing underneath it. And rafts can actually be quite good for things where you're wanting, if you're printing something that doesn't have a flat side, you can print a raft so that it can actually print, unusual, sort of different shapes and stuff underneath it. But when it comes to bed adhesion, the bed not being the right temperature is one thing. One possible thing. It also does depend on the film. Oh, sorry. And then there we go. But then the other thing is what's the material of the bed? Is it PEI or something?
Yeah. The PEI beds are amazing.
Yeah. So PEI, they are basically sticky when they're hot, and they're not sticky when they're cold. And that is just the easiest thing to do. I've replaced all of my printers with PEI beds, and it has just made 3D printing so much easier. Stuff sticks when it needs to stick and comes unstuck when it doesn't. If you don't have that, there is also a product called Magigoo, MAGI Goo. And that is like a glue stick, but again, it's a product that is designed to be sticky when it's warm and not sticky when it's not. So if you just get a standard bed, even just like a glass bed, and you put this stuff over it, don't put it on while the bed is hot. That's very bad. When the bed is cold, you put the stuff on, it sort of dries, and then it will, nothing's coming off it. It will stick on there while the bed is warm, and then you just have to wait for it to cool down. That's the only downside. You have to wait for it to cool down, or you'd never get the thing off. So
I would also say filament might also be another potential. I had major problems with, again, just the default Creality black spool. It printed okay, but I wasn't really impressed with the quality of it. I switched to I've got a reel of Elegoo, PLA, just in sort of matte grey, and everything I've printed with it has just been bang on. The only issue which I have with printing, and that doesn't seem to make any difference what filament I'm using, and that's trying to print anything round, and it just drags it across the bed. I'm like, no, stay.
Oh, okay, that's no good.
Yeah.
There's a filament which has been mentioned, and it's well published about this filament, but there's a filament that is very close to the original Mac beige. It's made by, I can't remember, Eric.
Polymaker?
Yeah, Polymaker.
Yeah.
And RAL filament, RAL 1243 or something.
It's on thread on Tinker Different.
Yeah, that's right, to check out. But what I will say is, if anyone does get hold of that Polymaker filament, it's a very brittle filament. So it's fine for things that are for decoration, but if you're trying to build something that needs to have some proper structural integrity, it's not particularly good for it. So it's fine for things like bezels and stuff like that. But for instance, I printed one of those buttons on the side of an SE, SE30 Mac 2, the reset button. It's just that filament is just not strong enough for that button. The little tabs that stick out and go through the little holes in the case, they just snap off way too easily. So
I think Mark has some recreated ones. Mac Effects does.
Okay, excellent. Yep, cool bananas. As I turned around here, it made me think of something, but I can't remember what it was. So it's gone. Never mind. It's not important.
While we're still on 3D printing, I've wanted to bring this up, which is infill. If you're printing parts which require strength, change your infill. Best one to use that I found so far is the gyroid infill, because I just the inside. If you look at like cross section of gyroid infill, it looks mad. It's not too dense, it's not like solid infill, but the structural strength that it gives a part is absolutely insane.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
I've built 2 laptop stands so far for our guys at work out of the stuff, and this is just standard PLA. It's not ABS or anything fancy, it's just a standard Elegoo spool. And this thing has been yeeted off a desk and it's just bounced. And it hasn't broken, hasn't shattered, hasn't moved at all.
Wow. It's very pretty gyroid.
It's a very pretty infill. And actually, I'm using it on this project at the moment. So I've got an Asus AAN board. The CPU bracket for mounting the cooler in it, these tabs on the original board were completely snapped off. And I found a generic model on Thingiverse for it. And this is printed with gyroid infill. Bearing in mind, this is, again, PLA. It's not ABS. I've got a big, very heavy cooler that I'm going to mount to this now as a, just to going to show off the strength of this infill pattern. This is, and again, this is just on just standard print. Nothing else done with it. And come on, go in there, you sod. There we go. Right, there we go. It will. It's more happy. Just lift. You can lift the board with this. This is not going anywhere. Yes, it's got a backplate on the back, but it's not bending. It's not warping. I don't know if you can necessarily see like from the side there as well. It's not pulling on anything, and it's the amount of load that's on those tabs as well. And again, those are printed with gyroid infill. The load on those tabs is quite a lot.
Okay.
You would have thought that PLA wouldn't stand up to that, but again, infill with the correct settings.
I will definitely give that a try for sure. So now, look, we have been going for about 2 hours. I think that's probably enough for us and for our viewers. So I think I'll probably wrap things up at this stage. So thank you to you all for being here, and thank you to all the viewers who have been watching here. Please feel free to leave comments afterwards because it's good for the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And Francois, I thought we established you don't sleep. He said need sleep. Yeah, I thought
he needs sleep. Yeah. He's not getting sleep.
He needs sleep.
That's
he just
right.
Doesn't
so
use
it's time for him to go on and invent some of these things we talked about. Now, Justin, did you want to give your channel a quick plug?
Oh yeah. So I've got the link to my YouTube channel just conveniently right there. And hey, I'm pointing at it for once, which is something YouTubers have trouble with. Anyways, go check out my channel.
My channel. Wait, no.
Yeah, which corner? I don't know. Yeah, so go check out that YouTube channel. I am currently working on a Quadra 700 for Marchintosh.
Wonderful.
And also getting ready to go to VCF East here in April.
Excellent.
Good Still stuff. Jealous of VCF.
Yes, I know, me too. We don't have anything like that here.
You can fly to New Jersey and join us.
So somebody legitimately organized an event up in London, and I'm like, London, Jesus, it's like 45 miles away. I'm not going that far.
Oh, I'd like to travel someday.
So, okay, if I go up there in a car, let's see. I've got the ULEZ fee, the congestion charge, sitting in traffic for 3 hours and no parking at the other end. Or I can go on the train and spend £100 and not be able to take anything or buy anything. Great choice.
I always say
Blackpool.
I never mind driving a long distance as long as there's somewhere for me to park when I get there. Yeah. If I get somewhere and there's no parking, that really frustrates me.
Yeah.
Now, Kai, did you want to plug anything? Have you got anything?
I don't think there's anything that I really wanted to plug. All I wanted to say was that one of the things that we've been kind of trying to work towards as a board is putting together these live streams on a more regular basis. The last one that we did was basically a year ago. We would like to change the kind of cadence so that we're doing maybe one every quarter or so. And again, tell us what you think. This isn't just us saying we're going to do this on such and such a date. Tell us what you'd like to see from us. It's everything that Tinker Different does is community driven. So if you want us to do more regular streams or long streams, shorter streams, shorts featuring on certain things, tell us.
And if there's anything on the forum that you think should be featured in one of these live streams, please do let us know. Because that's the material. That's the stuff that we like to show on these live streams. We like to show the absolutely awesome things being made by the community. Fantastic, good stuff. How about you, Eric? You want to plug something? Give Blue Scuzzy a bit of a plug.
Yeah, go buy some Blue Scuzzies from bluescuzzy.com. They're great. Right there. And then I'll be at VCF Midwest. I got in the hotel that is now sold out, so it's just crazy how big that's going to be because it's in a huge hotel this year. And I think it's kind of funny hearing about your drive. The drive to VCF is from Minnesota to Chicago is 7.5 hours, and that's kind of like that's not too bad. And the tolls are about $4, so.
I did a 5-hour drive from Calais to my house. That was about 5.5 hours, and I arrived and fell asleep within 3 minutes of arriving.
I mean,
I don't think I could manage a drive that length. No.
I just call my wife and talk to her for an hour, and she's like, "Okay, stop talking to me," and then I have to go find a show or something to listen to, and it goes by.
What's worse is listening to NRJ at 2:00 in the morning and trying to keep your eyes open. Literally, it's like,
yeah, come on, that's what audio books and podcasts are for.
Not doing that again.
That's it for me.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up then. So once again, thank you to all of you for joining. Sorry we didn't get all of the board here, but we will be nagging them to try and get them into future episodes. We do want to try and make these more regular, as Kai said. And thank you to everyone who has watched. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to share this.
That like button.
I don't actually have the video of that here, I'm afraid, so I'll have to do a smash that like button. So there we go, got a live one. Yeah, so thanks again to everyone. I don't think I even have a little sign out thing here. So,
Bruce, you haven't plugged anything.
Oh, I haven't plugged anything. I'm doing a video on.
Streaming?
I'm doing a video on Flux at the moment, and it's driving me crazy. But it's coming out soon, and I reviewed a bunch of Fluxes, and they're all very good. But yes, I'm trying to get a little bit more content coming out lately. The channel is growing very well. I just need to make sure I match it with the amount of content. One thing that did happen yesterday, my beginner's guide to soldering video, part 1, clicked over 1.5 million views. So. I was very pleased to see that little 1.5 M next to it yesterday when I went and had a look at it. So
you need to activate the fireworks.
Yeah, that's
right. He did that, and the first thing I thought of was just like, this looks like a real bad knockoff of a Doctor Who intro from the 80s.
Oh dear!
This isn't Doctor Who. This is Doctor. What the fuck?
Oh dear! I'm just going to check and see. I don't think I've got anything in the way of a sign out, so it's going to be a rather abrupt end to this. So I do apologise to everyone for that. But once again, thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for the comments. Thanks for keeping the chat lively. And hopefully we'll be doing one of these streams in the not too distant future. We hope to see you there as well. So thank you to everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.